I have a short presentation that I'm going to run through. I'm not sure if we can pull up the slide deck, or I can also try to share my screen if that's better. Okay, here we go. Perfect. So yes, thank you for that wonderful introduction. As Lisa mentioned, I'm an attorney with the National Lawyers Guild, or the NLG. I'm also part of a group called the Committee to Stop FBI Repression. And it's truly an honor to be here with you all today with such incredible organizers and freedom fighters who have really been on the front lines against the FBI, fighting back against this repression and intimidation. And so the National Lawyers Guild, just very briefly, is a nationwide organization of progressive and radical attorneys that was founded a little more than 80 years ago, specifically to provide legal support to anti-imperialist struggles, anti-colonial struggles, labor struggles, and general progressive and radical movements. And today's program has been incredible. We've heard so much already about the crimes of the FBI against the people and the way that the FBI is weaponized to repress and to try to snuff out resistance and people rising up and demanding reparations and demanding their rights. And I've been asked to give just a very specific component of this, which is just a quick rundown of the best ways to respond in the moment if you find yourself in an interaction with the FBI personally. So whether they're approaching you at home, on the streets, whether they stop you in your car, maybe they go to your work, I'm going to let you know the best things that you can do in the moment, and the best way to protect yourself in the moment. At the end of the day, fighting back and demanding justice and organizing is really the only way to put pressure on the FBI. But hopefully the information that I can give you today is going to help you get into the best position to fight back after the FBI approach you. And I know many of you are lifelong freedom fighters and know a lot of this information, but it's always good to have a refresher. And for those of you who are new to this information, I hope that this helps you if and when you have the extreme displeasure of interacting with an FBI agent. So the first thing that I want to talk about is, why would an agent contact me? So you might be thinking, I don't think I've done anything illegal. Why would the FBI contact me? Why would they show up to my house? I mean, we've heard so many examples today of people who have already had this happen to them. And it's important to remember, it might not have anything to do with you personally. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're under arrest or that the FBI is investigating you personally. There's a lot of different reasons why they might try to talk to you, and I'm going to quickly run through them. There's real reasons why they might talk to you. Of course, it's possible that they are investigating you or people you know, or they could just be fishing for information. They could think, well, maybe we can just put pressure on this person and maybe get them to give us information that we didn't already have about people in the movement that they might know. It's also possible that they're just trying to harass you for your organizing activities. Their goal is simply to intimidate you and to make you scared of fighting back, scared to attend conferences and panels like today's. And the speakers today have made the correct point. The FBI attacks not because there's any crime or any wrongful activity. The FBI attacks because Black is back. The FBI attacks because people are standing up and fighting for their freedom and organizing. And that's considered a threat to the existing power structures. And this has already been covered extensively today. But that has been their role throughout the history of this country, and that's their role to this day. So it's likely that they're hoping to scare you and make you afraid to do the work that you're doing. They could also be hoping to coerce you into becoming an informant, trying to put pressure on you to answer their calls in the future, maybe to tell them something that they don't already know. They're very creative and cunning and deceitful people, and they're not required to tell you their true reason for contacting you. There's no law that requires them to be honest with you. So on top of the real reasons, their true political reasons for harassing you, what are some fake reasons that they might give you if you say, I'm sorry, well, why are you trying to talk to me right now? There's a whole lot of fake reasons that they're trained to provide, and they come up with all kinds of different stories. Members of the African People's Socialist Party were approached, and the FBI said, we think someone broke into your car. We need you to come outside and check out your car. Sometimes they say, we think you're a victim of identity theft. We just want to talk to you and make sure that no one has stolen your identity. Or, oh, we think someone that might be in trouble, and we just want to talk to you about it and see if you can help. You have to assume those things are lies. You should always assume that the FBI is lying to you, because they are lying to you. They're not going to tell you their real reasons for contacting you. That's the bottom line. So because they don't have to tell you their real reasons, and because they are so good at lying, and because it's their job to lie to you and trick you, the safest thing to do is to not engage with the FBI during that initial interaction. So the first thing you want to do is stay calm and remain silent. So this is often the most difficult thing to do in the moment, because these agents, again, these are trained investigators. They're trained in how to interrogate people, how to make you feel like you're being disrespectful or rude, or, you know, why don't you want to let us in? You know, we just want to come in and talk to you. Are you really that afraid that you're not going to let us in? They'll say all kinds of things to try to make you feel like you are doing something wrong by refusing to speak to them. You are not doing anything wrong. That is exactly what you should do anytime the FBI tries to talk to you, no matter what they say the reason is. You have the right to remain silent. There's a very narrow exception that you just should be aware of, which is if you are stopped in a vehicle, they could ask you, if you're driving, they could ask you for identification, and you would be required to show proof of a driver's license. But that's essentially it. You have the right to not say a single word beyond identifying yourself in those narrow cases. And on top of that, because you will not know their reason for wanting to speak with you, you're just not going to be in a position to outsmart them in the moment, because you don't know what their objective is. You don't know what information they have already. You don't know who they've already talked to. You don't know what their goal is in the moment. And it's really dangerous to talk to them, because you have to remember, making a false statement to the FBI is actually considered a federal crime. And it's a trap that they use. The FBI knows this, and they use this aggressively as a weapon against people, because what they'll do is they will research you ahead of time and find out just innocuous information about you. Who are you friends with? Who are you associated with on social media? What events did you say you were going to on social media? You know, basic information like that. Who have you been seen in meetings with? What organizations do you support, etc. Then they'll approach you, and they'll start a conversation that seems casual, and they'll say, oh, you know, do you know so-and-so? And you might think, I don't really know that person. So no, I don't know them, you know, to the extent that I would have information about that person. But if you say, no, you know, not really, and then they can say, well, you're friends with them on Facebook, all of a sudden they can accuse you of committing that federal crime. Whether you would actually be convicted or not is a separate situation. They're just looking for a reason to arrest you, a reason to get more power over you. The more you say in that moment, the more power they have over you to twist it and to try to really put pressure on you. And you just have to remember that they have that extra tool in their arsenal that they will use against you. The next thing I want to say is that it's important to remember, even if you do end up answering a few of their questions, it's never too late to say, you know what, I don't want to speak with you anymore until I have an attorney. I'm not going to answer any more questions. Do not feel like just because you said you'd speak to them, all of a sudden you have to. You can always change your mind and say, you know what, I'm done speaking to you. You can give me your card and you can call my attorney, which I'll talk about in a moment. So again, the best way you can protect yourself and prepare to fight back in that initial interaction is by saying nothing. You do not want to give them anything they can use against you. The only exception is if they have a search warrant and they are in your home, and there's someone in the home that is having a medical emergency and their safety is at risk, you can make that decision to inform the FBI to say, look, this person is right here. They are in the process of going through some medical situation. They need medical care. That's really the only exception that I can think of where you might seriously consider speaking up and saying anything beyond, don't ask me questions, talk to my attorney. Some examples of how you might say this would be, I'm not talking to you. You can just say that. If that's what you're comfortable with, you can leave it at that. You can say, I'd like to talk to my lawyer before I speak with you further. That's maybe a way to de-escalate if that's something you're more comfortable with. Or you can say, I have nothing to say to you, but if you leave me your card, my lawyer can call you. And you know, you should practice saying those things, because again, in the moment when they're at the door and they're trying to come in and they want to talk to you and they're lying to you and trying to manipulate you, it's really helpful to just practice, just repeat those phrases. And you might have to say the same exact thing 10 times before they finally leave, but that's really what you have to do. Now, you want to take their business card. So you're not going to speak to them. The plan is you're not going to answer any questions. You're not going to let them into your home. You're not going to speak to them, but you are going to ask for their business card because you want to know what is the name of the agent who just came and tried to intimidate me. There's a number of reasons you want that information. The first one is because you're going to document the situation. So as it says on the slide, you're going to want to write down as much information as possible. What time did they come to your home? How many agents showed up? What were the names of any of these agents, if you can get their contact information, or if they gave you a card? What telephone number did they give you, if any? Did they identify what agency they're from? They might be from the FBI, or if they're working through what's called a joint terrorism task force, they could, they might not be from that exact agency. So you always want to make sure you know what agency are they from. You should write down any questions that they asked you. That's super important, especially if they asked you questions about any specific individuals, organizations, or events, because that will give you and your comrades an idea of what they might be trying to get in terms of information and what they might be focusing on. You also want to try to write down any answers that you gave, because you're going to need to tell your attorney as much as you can about any conversation that you had. Hopefully you didn't give them any answers at all, but if you did give them any answer to any of their questions, make sure you write that down. Write down a physical description of the agent too, because sometimes, let's say they harass you and eventually you go to court to try to file a civil rights case. You might need a physical description in order to help identify exactly which agent was trying to talk to you. If there were any witnesses, let's say they approached you on the street and there's somebody who was nearby and observed the interaction, you might want to go ask that person, hi, can I just get your name and phone number in case I have any issues with this down the road? That can be helpful. And I say to write it down immediately because your memory is going to be best right after the interaction, once they leave. And you'll have that adrenaline and you'll really be in the best position to focus and write down as much as you can remember. If you try to do it later, you might end up forgetting some details. An important note I want to make about video and audio recording is that you are legally allowed to video record law enforcement. You have that right, but you cannot interfere with what they're doing. So if you are videoing them and they say, I need you to move over this way, you need to move over that way. Otherwise, they can accuse you of interfering with their investigation. You need to be obvious about it. You should not try to film them secretly. That's usually not going to work. It's not as protected legally, and unfortunately, it could escalate the situation, which is usually not your goal in the moment. But if you feel comfortable and you feel that you can safely video record the encounter, that's a great way to raise awareness about their tactics, because then you can distribute that video to all of your comrades in your community and say, look, this is when they approached me. This is how I stood up and asserted my rights. And now you can do the same thing. And that can be a really helpful tool to help encourage and make other people comfortable asserting their rights as well. So the next thing you want to do after you take all of your notes is you want to contact an attorney. And you might think, look, I don't plan to talk to the FBI. I don't plan to call them back. I'm not interested in having any conversations with them. I don't think I need a lawyer because I'm not going to get arrested. So I would rather just not engage with this at all. But my advice to you truly is always, you should try to contact a lawyer. And there's a number of ways that a lawyer can help in the situation. Even if you have no intention of speaking to the FBI, a lawyer can still help you. So this is why. There's two main benefits to getting your attorney and informing them about what happened. The first is they can help shield you from any future FBI harassment. So once you inform the FBI, you are represented legally by an attorney, and your attorney has contacted them. Maybe they'll say, something very simple to the effect of, I represent this individual. I understand you approached them. You are not to speak to my client without me present, period. They have the right to have me present. You are not to ask my client any questions without me present. And that's a really powerful legal shield that can help you from prevent you from being exposed to future intimidation, so that they're less likely to come back and just keep trying to, intimidate you and keep trying to start the conversation again. The second thing that they can do is they can put the FBI on notice that you are exercising your rights, that you have an attorney, and that you're fighting back against that political repression. It lets the FBI know you are not a weak target. You are not someone that they can push and squeeze to try to get information or to try to flip you into an informant. You're someone who knows your rights and you've got an attorney. They can also get information for you. The FBI is not required to tell your attorney the truth, but they are more likely to reveal some information about why they're contacting you, because your attorney can say something like, my client is considering whether they want to speak with you further, but in order to make that decision, to advise them, I need to know, what are you going to ask them about? What is this in regard to? And there's a good chance that the FBI will say more to your attorney than they would to you in that moment, because they're going to try to convince your attorney to advise you to speak to them. So they're a little more likely to take your attorney seriously in terms of what they might be willing to say. Again, generally speaking, they're snakes and they're going to lie. So this is not to say that your attorney has like the power to make them tell the truth, but it's better that your attorney does that than that you personally do that in the moment when you're by yourself and very understandably concerned. And you got to remember, your attorney can have this conversation and ask those questions without revealing anything about your situation or your plans. Even if you tell your attorney, look, I have no desire to speak to them, but I would like you to call them and see if you can figure anything out about what they know and what they're looking for. And your attorney can help you do that. So how do you find an attorney? And preferably an attorney who has worked with activists before and understands that sometimes the political strategy of any legal case is just as important as any specific legal argument. You want an attorney who understands the importance of political leadership and political strategy. So there's a few ways to find lawyers like that. The National Lawyers Guild, which I mentioned earlier, it's across the country. There's local chapters all over the place. And those chapters can help connect you with local activist movement lawyers in your area who would be able and more likely to meet with you and assist you and give you advice and call the FBI on your behalf. You can also Google your local bar association. They should be able to connect you with experienced criminal defense and civil rights attorneys in your area. And then lastly, you should reach out to your community, reach out to activists and organizers who you know who have used the services of an attorney in the past, and see what their experience was. See if they can connect you with an attorney that they personally trust. That's a great way to meet them. So the next thing you want to do after you find an attorney, and this is something that all the speakers have really emphasized already today, you must alert your community. You must tell people what's happening. The more people who are aware of FBI practices and what to expect, the better prepared folks are to react in the moment. So you want to spread the word and help keep each other safe. And the next slide has a photo of a press conference that Lisa mentioned that I was part of, which was held by the December 12th movement in Brooklyn right after the FBI raids on the organization. And you can see the Black is Back coalition was definitely a part of it, and you can see Lisa in the front right there with the fist up. And it's really important to spread the word, because you want everyone around the country who's involved in the struggle to know that the FBI are asking these questions to people who they think have these kind of affiliations, and you all need to prepare. So the last thing I want to talk about is a quick note on warrants and searches. So the 4 steps that I just went over are going to be useful to you no matter where the FBI approaches you, in your house, at an organizing meeting, at a protest, at school, wherever you are. But warrants and search warrants and arrest warrants come into play specifically and especially if the FBI knocks on your door at home. They might not knock. If they have a search warrant, you better believe they're just going to knock down the door, because that's, again, part of how they scare people, is by being very violent and arresting you and making you sit on your lawn and breaking all of your things and stuff like that. So let's say that they knock on your door. If they're asking permission to enter your home and they're asking you to open the door and speak to them, the best thing you can do is to refuse to open that door. You are always safer with the FBI on the other side of the door. than if they are sitting in your living room and you have to come up with a way to get them out of your house. You're always going to be safer with them outside. If they have the right to open your door, they're going to do it no matter what you say. So if they're asking permission, it usually means they don't actually have a search warrant. They don't have the right to go into your home, and you have the right to say, no, you're not invited into my home and I'm not opening the door. Again, you're always going to be in a better position if you can keep them outside. If they ask to come inside, the correct answer is always going to be not without a warrant, or I do not consent to a search of my home and I am not opening the door for you. You are not invited into my house. If you need to speak with me, speak with my attorney. He will contact you. If you let them into your home, then they can argue that anything that they might have seen around in the vicinity while they were in your home, they can say, well, it wasn't an illegal search because they let me inside. And I just happened to see this poster for this organization that they said they weren't affiliated with. So, you know, this is an example of the bad things that can happen if you let these people inside. If they claim that they have a warrant, if they say we have a warrant to come inside, you can open the door, but we do have a warrant. They could be lying. Probably they are lying. Probably they don't really have a warrant. But what you want to do is you want to say, hold that warrant up to the peephole or slide it under the door. You have the right to read any warrant that the FBI tries to execute on you or your home. You have the right to read that warrant. And that warrant must have specific information in order for it to be valid legally. First, they have to go to a court and get a judge to sign the warrant. So it needs to have a judge's signature, not the head of the FBI, not their supervisor, an actual judge. And it has to specifically identify the premises. So they get warrants with the wrong address. And that's great because that means they don't have the right to search your home. So always check the address. Check, there should be a description of the property that they're searching, what they're looking for. There should be, if it's an arrest warrant, you need to make sure it has your exact name and your exact information. Because if it doesn't, it's not a valid warrant. No warrant equals no entry. That's what you should remember. If you don't have a warrant, you're not getting into my house. And again, you're not required to let them in, even though you might feel like, oh, I don't want to be impolite. These are not your friends. They're not trying to help you. You don't owe them politeness. In fact, you are much safer to not open the door because they are trying to trick you. So again, final note to consider about searches and warrants is shared spaces. So while the FBI needs your consent to search any of your private spaces in your home, if you live with roommates or if the FBI is trying to search a rental property, like let's say you have a landlord, or if you're at work and they try to come to your office, they are able, other people can consent to searches. So you should read, if you're a renter, for example, you should read your lease and see what rights your landlord has to consent to a search, and try to inform yourself and make sure that that your landlord can't consent to the FBI searching your apartment. That's something you can negotiate with your landlord. If you have a roommate, please, please, please tell them they are not allowed to consent to a search of your room or any other shared spaces. And if you want to share this presentation with them, even just this section of it, please, it's better off for them too if they don't let the FBI in. If you have someone who lives in your same bedroom, if you are if you have a roommate or a partner or someone that you live with who lives in your bedroom, they can consent to a search of your bedroom, even though it's your personal space, because it's also their personal space. So that's one thing you just got to keep in mind. It's a good idea to look around and think, okay, what are the private spaces that I have the complete authority over consenting to? And what are spaces where someone else might be able to consent? Because I need to go talk to that person and let them know, do not consent to any searches. And then, you know, that's most of what I wanted to say. But the next slide is just a few key points just to summarize the 4 things that you want to do in the moment. I hope it's been helpful for you all. Again, I know most of you know a lot of this already, but hopefully we can remember these things and be stronger together and be more prepared for when the FBI, if and when the FBI does approach you. It can be very intimidating, very scary, very violent. But if you can remember these things, you're going to protect yourself and be in the best position to fight back with your community and to fight back against these kinds of harassment and attacks. And, you know, just think of how many of today's speakers have been personally attacked by the FBI. and draw strength from that, draw inspiration from that. They stood up to the FBI, they exerted their rights, they asserted their rights. You can do the same thing. And with that, I just want to say hands off Uhuru, hands off Africa, fists up, fight back, and thank you all so much again for having me.
Uhuru, and thank you so very much, Collin, for this presentation. I just was looking at a lot of the comments that people were making in the chat. I want to let people know that this has been live streamed on Facebook, which means that the recording is available and is available to share broadly the recording of this webinar. And we are going to also make sure that these recordings are available as well. I want to just do a time check. Sister Elikia, how are we doing? I know that we had scheduled a Q&A, but I know we're running a little over time. So
yes, we can still do the Q&A. It would be, it was 10-minute Q&A. We can do the 10 minutes Q&A.
Oh, okay, great. I'm going to, again, I don't know, Sister Elikia, if you had like a page where you were condensing some of the comments, but I know a few things that people have been saying, like somebody was saying, if you're going to audio record them, do you still need to let them know that you're recording them? And I'm just going to ask these questions sort of all at once, and then Comrade Collin, you can answer afterwards. And somebody also said, like Chess Hendry said, is the FBI like other cops? Can they ask if they are being detained and try to leave? And somebody asked about a digital warrant. What if the warrant is digital on the computer in my car? I'm not exactly sure. That was by Julian Palmer. I'm not exactly sure that I understood the question. And they also asked, Chess Henry also asked, can they search cars, bags, etc., without having to show a warrant? And also, I just wanted to just add to this, like, what if you're walking down the street or something and they approach you? I mean, because you can say, you can't come into my home, but if you're out on the street, how would you handle some of that? Let me just see if there's anything else. And then Michael Penn had said, what policies would you propose to hold the FBI accountable for the destruction of Black America? And then somebody just asked a general question, what are some of the ways that the Black is Back Coalition can help Africans who suffered attacks by the colonial state avoid being fooled by the FBI? And that's one of the reasons why we're having this webinar, and we're going to be presenting this information. But I think those are, for the most part, all of the kind of general comments. And I think I saw that Brother Matt Simela, I think he made the comment, and he could verify this, but a lot of people have, they have their legal names, and then they have their names that are not their legal names. And I don't know if he was alluding to, like, what if the warrant maybe contains the name they're known by, not their legal name? But he can certainly clarify that if I didn't ask the question correctly. Uhuru, Brother Collin. You're muted if you're talking. Oh.
Yes. So that's a lot of good questions. So I'm going to start with the question of what happens if they approach you on the street. Yes, the best practice is the one that the person who asked the question hinted at, which is you should say, am I being detained? Am I free to go? If they have a basis to arrest you and to detain you for questioning, then that's probably what they're going to do, whether you cooperate or not. That's what they'll do. You don't really benefit from voluntarily speaking to them in any setting. But yes, if you're out on the street and they try to stop you and keep you in a certain area to answer questions, and they say, oh, can you just come over here and talk to us for a minute? You can say, no, am I being detained? Because if not, I'm leaving. If you have questions for me, you can give me your card and I'll give it to my attorney. That's how I would handle that situation where they stop you on the street. Because they cannot keep you in any particular area unless they have a basis for that, for detaining you. The question about can they search bags and things like that. So searches are tricky legally. It's really depends on the situation because it depends on what's in the search warrant. It depends on what they say they're looking for. Let's say they get a search warrant that says they're looking for large caliber weapon or something like that they know reasonably it's not going to be small. let's say you have a small pouch or a file folder. Their warrant to search for that specific object does not mean that they can go through every single small nook and cranny. If the space is too small to conceivably contain the thing that they're looking for, they should not be searching that space. This will shake. A lot of this will only really come up in a court case, and it'll depend on the specifics of your situation. When you, like, let's say they search your house and you want to make the argument that it was an illegal search. This is one of the arguments you might make, is that the warrant did not specify the objects that they were searching for, or the objects specified in the warrant were too large to conceivably fit in the thing that they ended up searching. But you're best off discussing that with your attorney in the context of trying to suppress evidence that they found in a search. If they arrest you, they can search the immediate vicinity, and the legal basis for that is they call it a security reason. They say we need to search the immediate area to make sure there's no weapons, no one is destroying evidence, things like that. So if you think you're going to be arrested, it is better to be arrested outside than to be arrested in your home, because if you're outside, it gives them less ability to search the immediate vicinity for whatever they're trying to find. So that's one thing about searching inside of bags and things like that. The legal name question, yes, if it's an arrest warrant, it should have your legal name on it. It should not have nicknames or pseudonyms or names that you use for movement purposes. It should have your legal name. For audio recording, I would recommend stating I'm recording this conversation. I'm doing an audio recording of this conversation, because it makes it harder for them to say that you were interfering. Like, let's say you were trying to be discreet and to record them without them knowing. It gives them a little bit more room to say, oh, you're trying to interfere. What are you doing? You're trying to hide things from us. What's in your hand? You generally want to avoid that. You want them to leave. So the best thing to do is to just tell them, I am recording you and I'm telling you I do not consent to a search and I do not want to answer your questions. That way they know anything they say, you're recording, and you have that right. You have the right to record them. So I think you're actually better off strategically if you do tell them up front, I'm recording you, because they're going to be less likely to just continue harassing you and pushing the legal boundaries. There was a question about political strategies for holding the FBI accountable. I would prefer not to answer that personally, just because I think it's a question of political tactics and strategy, and that's not really my role here today. My role today is just to help you have the tools for a legal situation. But you should get involved in the struggle. I mean, organizing gets the goods. People don't win revolutionary change or hold the FBI accountable single-handedly. You do it through fighting with a movement, with an organization, such as the ones that have been represented here today. That's all I would really say on that. I wouldn't try to offer up any particular suggestions, because I don't really think that's my place. But just generally speaking, the way we fight back against these people, the way we stop them from harassing our communities, the way that we make them less likely to successfully put the squeeze on people, is by uniting, linking up, sharing this information, and fighting back as a community, as a movement, as people united in struggle. And I think that's all the questions. If there's anything else that I missed, I'm happy to.
Uhuru, there's just one other point I wanted to bring up, and thank you so much. This has been so informative. But Julian Palmer says, and I've never heard of this, but she says some officers claim they don't have a physical warrant, but they claim it's digital or on a computer in their car. That's a thing that's happening?
Yeah. If they claim that, you still have the right to see it. That's the bottom line on that. If they're saying, oh, I have a warrant, but I can't show it to you for one reason or another, it's in my car or it's on my computer at home, that sounds to me like they're not going to be able to come in, because you have the right to see a warrant. You have the right to read it. You have the right to verify the information on it. And even if you don't have a peephole, you can, if you have a window near the door, you can tell them, hold the warrant up to the window. Or if you think it's digital, go get your laptop from your car. What do you mean you have a digital warrant in your car? Bring it over here. Show me through the peephole. The bottom line is you have the right to see the warrant. They cannot hide the warrant from you by claiming, well, it's digital.
Uhuru.
We can take one more question. We are short for time. This is from Chess Henry. It says, Collin, is there anything you can say about digital security? Like for security, is it best to keep as much of digital as possible? And perhaps this question too, how about making complaints against the FBI for racial discrimination? Those would be the last two questions.
Definitely. So to make a complaint against the FBI, you should probably try to consult with an attorney, because you'll probably need to bring a case in court. It's hard to win them, but they're a great tool for fighting back, because anything we can do to put the FBI on notice, to make them defend their positions and to let the public know what they're doing and to raise awareness, I think it's a good thing. And I think that they are harassing people, they are profiling people, and they should be accused of doing that, because that is what they're doing. So I support making those complaints, and the first step is going to be to try to contact an attorney and see if you can find someone who can help you put one together. And then the question, well, I'm sorry, what was the question right before that?
Yes. Is there anything you can say about digital security? For example, is it best to keep as much, I guess, information off of digital things as much as possible?
Yes, I think that if you are, the best practice for an organization would be, if it doesn't need to be information that is preserved digitally permanently in some sort of a saved file, it is a good practice to periodically get rid of your notes, to periodically get rid of notes that you've taken from past meetings that you don't need anymore. It's to protect yourself digitally. The FBI has all kinds of tools for surveillance digitally. We would really have a whole nother webinar on different specific ways you can protect yourself when you're browsing and things like that. But generally speaking, try not to put things in writing if they don't need to be, and don't assume things are secure. You should assume that the FBI has access to things that to digital information that you're storing. I don't know of a way to keep it 100% secure. Maybe there's other people who know more about digital technology who could advise you. There is a group called the Electronic Freedom Foundation, I'm going to pull it up real quick, because they actually have a lot of information about, it's called the Electronic Frontier Foundation. It's a website. They publish a ton of information about how to protect yourself online. They have a whole document called the Surveillance Self-Defense Guide. And that's really helpful. They have a ton of information. Yeah, Lisa just posted the name in there.
Thank you very much.